Ryan Breslow, the once beloved founder of the fintech startup Bolt, is up to some really crazy stuff right now. At one point, Ryan Breslow was the youngest self-made billionaire in history, but now peers in the startup space are calling him the clown in the valley, and as you're about to see, for very good reason. Ryan is now forcing his way back into the company, the same one that he created and was later ousted from. Now, ousted founders making a comeback into the company isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, just look at Steve Jobs' return to Apple. That ushered in a period of unprecedented growth. What's truly shocking about the Ryan Breslow story is the way in which he's willing to hold investors hostage to get himself back into the CEO role. He's using the company's next founding round, their Series F, as a weapon to make sure that he gets back into the CEO role, and with that gets a juicy compensation package. And if the existing investors don't buy into this round, Ryan has threatened to wipe out 97.5 of their valuation, and he's capable of doing this with just a sweep of the pen. This is a story of bad governance, bad investor relationships, bad leadership, misleading customers, staled product growth, and the dangers of investor FOMO. But it's also a story that I'm excited to tell, because understanding the downfall of Bolt will protect us from future morally bankrupt and poor performant all hype CEOs. And understanding these dynamics is the key to intelligent investing. Hi, I'm David. I became a self-made millionaire by the age of 30, and I did it mostly on a military officer's salary. I believe there is extremely untapped power in investing, so long as you're actually willing to do your homework and realize that there is no way to get rich quickly. We call this intelligent investing. And if you like this type of content, please consider subscribing to the channel. It would really help us get this content out to more people. Okay, to best understand the shenanigans that Ryan Breslow is trying to pull today, it requires a little bit of historical context into his company Bolt. So back in 2014, Ryan Breslow dropped out of Stanford to launch Bolt, a company offering one-click checkout as a service. He did it because he saw an opportunity. Amazon had monopolized one-click payments since 1999. And Ryan Breslow asked the question, why hasn't the rest of e-commerce caught up? The answer was surprisingly simple. Amazon had quietly patented the one-click checkout in the early 2000s, but that patent was set to expire in 2017. So Ryan Breslow jumped at the chance to fill the gap. Honestly, this was a pretty good idea, and the company started gaining traction pretty quickly.
With Bolt, 71% of shoppers stay logged in and check out in one click.
But this is also where it fell off the rails.
Let's say I have a company and I'm trying to raise money.
You're trying to create is a crowd momentum behind you. The hardest one to get to fall is the first one. And you have to get this person to fall just through your character.
Bolt experienced some early success, pulling in around $7 million in 2019 and soaring those sales to an estimated $25 million in 2020. Driven in part due to the e-commerce boom during the pandemic. But here's the kicker. By 2020, Bolt had already raised $100 million in venture funding, giving it an implied valuation of over $1 billion. And this is where the real story of Bolt and Ryan Breslow begins. Breslow realized that in the world of tech startups, sky-high valuations seem to matter more than happy customers or sustainable growth. He got hooked on the venture capital drug, and it's a very difficult drug to shake once you're on it.
So first step is build network and play the long game. Build a relationship with these folks. Casually make sure all these people in your network are impressed by you.
The game became all about raising more and more capital, and Breslow played it well. He even published a book on raising venture capital, which I read all the way back in 2022, but frankly, I didn't think the book was very good at all. There was nothing about actually building something for people or changing the way things are. It was all about raising. By 2022, the venture funding kept piling in. Bolt had raised over $1 billion, pushing its implied valuation to a staggering $12 billion. This period was when Ryan was able to claim the youngest self-made billionaire title. But here's the catch. Sales were stagnant. I have found nothing in my research that said sales ever topped $30 million. Only a few weeks after securing that $12 billion venture round, Ryan Breslow suddenly and abruptly stepped down as CEO of his company.
You know, I think there's a misconception that someone who's a meditated person is totally peaceful.
Okay.
You know?
And a few months later, the New York Times released a damning and very well-researched expose outlining how Bolt had inflated their business metrics and failed to deliver promises to customers. So Ryan stepped away from the company, But his time away wasn't really all sunshine and daisies. He was being sued by investors for adding $30 million in personal debt to Bolt's balance sheet. $30 million. And he was also being accused of removing board members when they urged Breslow to repay the debts that he was saddling his own company with. But in the last few months, something weird has happened. Ryan wants back in. He wants back into the CEO role. And he's doing it in the most aggressive and weird way possible. Existing investors were only given a week to say whether or not they plan to join the next funding round. And this round was attempting to raise $200 million more, giving Bolt an implied valuation of $14 billion. Oh, and by the way, revenue has remained constant during this time. It's been almost flat for 3 years. And Breslow was holding a metaphorical gun to investors' heads. Breslow threatened to buy back shares at a $300 million valuation if existing investors didn't get on board. Since the company was previously valued at $11 billion, buying back shares at a $300 million valuation would be literally wiping out 97.5% of the existing value. This is super, super bad for existing shareholders. And he's able to do all of this because there's a pay-to-play clause in Bolt's term sheets. This holds investors hostage because they have two choices here. They can either invest additional capital and go along with the next funding round, or face severe financial penalties. And Bolt's not hiding what those severe financial penalties will be. They have stated that they will buy back new shares at a $300 million valuation, which is specifically less than a penny per share. So investors have two choices. They either basically lose their investment, or they have to put more money and double down on this already extremely overvalued company to keep the gamble going. That pay-to-play clause is really bad for older investors and puts them in a really tight spot. So this is really, really bad governance. I've operated in the private markets before, and I'm aware of this clause, and I would never invest in a company that had a pay-to-play clause. But hey, although this is sketchy, but where I really get heated is when you look at the proposed compensation package Ryan Breslow is bringing into this round. Per the new agreement, Ryan Breslow would collect a $2 million signing bonus, an additional $1 million for back pay, an additional $750,000 in travel fees from his previous stints as the company's chief, and $80,000 a month for travel and a private security detail. Which, during the research for this video, I heard that his private security detail is like similar to that of Bill Gates, which is wild. This guy is so high on his own supply, it's not funny.
For folks who followed my journey, it's been a roller coaster. And so I say I didn't get into mindfulness because I wanted to. I really had to. And so I got into meditation, yoga, and so that's how I start my morning. And so I feel like if I get that done, the rest of the day I'm playing with house money.
So how do you protect this from happening to you in the future? First, I'll start with the obvious answer, and then we'll move into the less obvious one that really fits into Buffett-style investing, which is what Flank is solely focused on. If you're newer to valuations, first, I highly recommend checking out our platform. We're offering early access to our Patreon members, but on our platform, we walk you through 3 different types of standard financial valuations. All right, first and the obvious one is governance and terms matter. When you buy a business, especially in the private markets, you must make sure you're doing your homework and make sure the terms you are signing make sense. As I said, I would never sign anything with a pay-to-play clause. When you become a large capital allocator, you're going to need to protect yourself against very, very slick salespeople. That's what Ryan Breslow is at the end of the day. He is an incredible capital raiser, and he's a really bad operator. And as we're learning now, he's also really cutthroat. And that leads into the second, less obvious answer. And it really does boil down to this famous Buffett quote: "You can't do a good deal with a bad person." Breslow is super good at raising, there's no question there. And I'm not hating on having a well-funded startup. I'm bootstrapping my own startup with my own money, and I'll be honest, it's painful sometimes. So I wouldn't be mad if he was screwing over investors for the customer or for the company or for his employees. But he's screwing over investors who trusted him with their capital for himself, plain and simple. You can see it by his compensation package. Remember, we alluded to Steve Jobs at the top of this video. But when Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1997, he had a salary of just $1 and no additional capital. He was only given a stock option after being there for 3 years. There wasn't some sneaky crap going on. He was only given additional stock options in 2000, and even those were underwater at the time, meaning that the stock was underneath the strike price. So when he returned for his third act at Apple, it truly was because he believed in the company, he believed in the mission, he believed that he could do really cool things with the technology. That is not the case with Ryan Breslow. He wouldn't be coming in with a loaded gun. He wouldn't be coming in swinging if that were the case. He's doing it out of ego and for himself.
We love managers that have a passion for their business. And when we're buying a business, we have to ask ourselves, do they love the money or do they love the business? If they love the money, there's nothing wrong with that. But they probably wouldn't be running the business for us a year or two down the road.
So there you have it, folks. When Buffett and Munger are evaluating management, they are looking for someone who's passionate. And by the time they get to their level, they're obviously competent. There's no question that Ryan Breslow is competent. He was smart enough to he's a good enough salesperson to get an Adam Newman level valuation on his startup. But I don't think he has the passion. Here's an interesting clip from a podcast I saw about him.
A founder brings three things that a professional manager doesn't have. The first thing a founder has is they're the biological parent. So you can love something, but when you're the biological parent of something, like it came from you, it is you. There's a deep passion and love.
We see it time and time again in interviews with him and by his own actions. During his time at Bolt, he was investing and starting other companies. He was still trying to do cryptocurrency projects. He implemented a 4-day work week and took on a holistic life where he wasn't working very much. He said that he would work like a lion.
I talked about this philosophy of working like a lion. So every day I look at my calendar, and if I'm not a fuck yes on that meeting, like I need to be at this meeting for 30 minutes, it's gone from my calendar.
Whatever that means. This is not indicative of someone who has passion, who wants to change the world. One of the columns of Buffett-style investing is evaluating management. And you don't have to know the person to be able to evaluate them, which, as we've seen in this video, Ryan Breslow seems to have no interest in trying to make whole, which is why I wouldn't touch this company with a 10-foot pole.
If you're gonna do something awful that's critical to your business, you might as well just go all in and be good at it.
If you're considered joining, we're offering early access to our Flank investing platform to our Patreon members. And in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna be releasing a full course that walks you through exactly how to do Buffett-style research, from understanding the company's business model all the way to doing your formal valuation. It's gonna be a really cool course, and we're offering the first couple sections of it to our Patreon members, so I hope to see you over there. That's all for this video. I really do hope you got something out of it. We'll see you next time.